Okay, perfect. All right, you ready to get rolling?
I'm ready.
All right. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Financial Pathway Podcast. I've got a special guest, Drayton Smith, here today. So Drayton, before I kind of give you the intro, I'll let you intro yourself. Tell us about you and what you do with Ministry Village.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here today. I'm the executive director for Ministry Village at Olive, and we have an umbrella of things that we do. One of those is our Cares House, where we have an addiction recovery for women. That's a 1 year to 3 year program. It's a very intense program and has great results. So we've been doing that now for about 15 years. This is our 15th year of doing that. We've had about 200 women that have completed and graduated that phase one program. So that's a good testimony of what we're doing there. So we have the Cares House, and we have Tender Hearts Caring Hands is another one of our ministries under the umbrella. And what Tender Hearts Caring Hands does, it's a benevolent need to where we help with utilities, we help with rent and mortgage, we help with food needs, and that food can look like many different things. It can be a hot meal for someone that walks up just needing something for the day to get them by, to sustain them. And then we have what we call a grab and go or a transient bag, which is a small one of the t-shirt plastic bags, and we put pop top food in that. So that would be for someone who has nowhere to cook, not necessarily a stable home. Maybe they live in a homeless population in a tent or something like that. So that's the food in there. And then we have a family bag, and that family bag is a good size. It's very heavy bag, the brown grocery store type bags. And that's filled with enough food for a family of four for about 3 days. And so that's those two ministries. And then we have Most Excellent Way, which is our addiction support group. And that happens twice a week. And that's on the Olive Baptist Church campus on Tuesdays and Thursdays, Most Excellent Way. And then we have our support system comes from many different things. Two of those being in our ministry is the Early Learning Center, where we have a pre-K program for children. And then also we have our Bargain Center, and that's out on 9 Mile Road. And that helps not only support financially the Cares House and Tender Hearts Caring Hands, but it also employs some of our ladies that are going through the Cares House program. And it also helps the community because we're able to give vouchers and help those in need. If someone simply can't afford even thrift store prices, we give them vouchers to be able to purchase their needs there, whether that be clothes, or maybe someone's had a house fire, they need furniture, or maybe someone's just getting started and just can't afford it. So we'll give them those vouchers to take care of those needs. So 5 different ministries under the umbrella of Ministry Village.
Yeah, that's great. I appreciate you giving us the rundown. A lot of people listening to this, I know some go to our church, they go to Olive Baptist, a lot don't. So Ministry Village works very closely in conjunction with our church, Olive. And I like how you explained, we've got two of those parts of Ministry Village are maybe not income producing is probably the wrong word, but they do have a source of revenue through them, the Early Learning Center and the Bargain Center. The other 3 are strictly outflows. They're just giving, helping. The Early Learning Center, what's the ages for that?
So that's infant up to the voluntary pre-K. So that would be 4-year-old. Mm-hmm.
And how many kids?
The 4-year-old. We have a capacity of 159. And so that's across, that's all total, 159 total students that we can accept. And we do have a waiting list for that.
Yeah, it's a great facility. The playground, every time I pass the playground, I always look at that like that is the ultimate playground for kids.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So of those 5 components, which one would you say? I would assume the Early Learning Center is the biggest investment of time, of resources, of workers. Would that be accurate?
It is. It is very accurate. They obviously have the most employees because of the ratios for students to children, and we actually go over that ratio of what the legal specifications are. We have more teachers than less. We err on the side of making sure that those kids are taken care of. So it is the Early Learning Center is the largest employer and the largest expense as well. Mm-hmm.
Sure. And just for the listeners, I want to make sure I'm clear here. The reason I wanted Drayton for you to come on the podcast and talk about this is we had talked kind of in a smaller group setting, and you'd given us sort of the lay of the land as far as what Ministry Village does. And there's a lot of people, even within our own church, because Olive is a large church, that are just not totally familiar. They know of Ministry Village, but they're not totally sure as to what all that it does and the different ways that we help our community. But also, I think there's a lot of folks across the country, and I know for Financial Pathway, like, people listen all over the country. And I think there's a lot of churches and ministries that want to be more involved in their community. They want to be able to have an impact. And I feel like what Ministry Village is doing, what you're doing, Drayton, is a good template maybe for some ways that churches can be involved. Ministry Village has got a lot going on. Most churches just don't have the capacity, whether it's facilities, number of workers, volunteers, financial resources. Like, I get most churches just can't all of a sudden be like, you know what, tomorrow we're going to do all 5 of these things, and we're going to do them well. But I'm hoping through this conversation, it gets some wheels turning as far as, okay, what are some possibilities? Can you speak to a little bit of the template then for how Ministry Village uses Early Learning Center primarily, even the Bargain Center, to help support and fund the other ministries that are very much just outflows? Can you give us a little bit of a breakdown of how that has worked?
Absolutely. So obviously there's still some debt with both of those, with the Bargain Center and with the Early Learning Center. So some of that has to go back into obviously the operation budget of that. But Nate, it takes about $17,000 a year for one of the ladies to go through Kara's house. And so obviously that funding does have to come from somewhere. So the way we do that is through the Early Learning Center and through the Bargain Center, through donors like Olive Baptist Church, and then the great folks that are in Olive. And then just kind of a side note here, you were talking about some of the other churches in a template. We do have other churches that come along beside of us that are finding out what we do, and they're asking questions. And exactly what you said, maybe they're not a huge church and they can't start something like what Ministry Village is doing, but we're asking for partners, and we're even doing that with some of the other nonprofits that are like-minded and have a similar focus of what we do. So it's all about, as you know very well, Olive is about community. So it's about bringing that community together and partnering. Not that one person is doing everything and another, is doing something else, and they're away from each other like it has been in the past, but it's coming together. And that's a beautiful thing to see, is how we're seeing other community partners, churches, businesses, individuals coming along beside of us. But going back to what you were saying is, yes, so those funds go directly into helping the ministry be successful, and those funds are used for that, as well as, again, funding from other places as well. So it's a challenge to work that out, the income and how that's distributed out. Right now, we're the whole country and the whole world, I guess, is in a financial crisis, so to speak. Food prices are soaring, and that has certainly had an impact on us. And again, we're a ministry, so we can't just continue to go up on our prices at the Bargain Center just to support the ministry, because it's helping other people in the community as well. So the offset, to find a balance of how we're using that funding and where we're putting that funding to. We've seen just in August alone, we've seen a huge increase of the needs just because of what's happening. Going from almost double of what we've seen in the months prior to August was almost double of those. So
wow.
So a lot of needs, but yes, those two, the Early Learning Center and the Bargain Center, helps us out tremendously in going towards that.
Yeah, I think the Early Learning Center, I know there are a lot of churches that do a daycare type of a facility like that. Mm-hmm. It is, of course, it takes you have to have the facility for it, and you have to have the workers. Although I feel like that's probably the facility is the big component of that. Is you got to have the space.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
but it can be I've always thought it's a phenomenal way for a church to be involved in the community, to provide a
Mhm.
service, to be able to connect with young families, provide a loving environment for kids that need to go to a daycare facility of some kind. So if the church can provide
Absolutely.
that, that's amazing. And then on top of that, almost always that's going to be not a revenue neutral, not a revenue losing, but a
Right.
positive. There's going to be income coming from
Right.
that. And what Ministry Village has decided is, great, let's take that and invest that in our community.
That's
Let's
exactly
invest
right.
in addiction recovery. Let's invest in helping people that are struggling, whether it's paying their utility bills or food or these types of things. So then that's a great use, and maybe a template that churches can begin to think of like, okay, we want to do some of these things. I just don't know that we have the budget necessarily to do that.
Absolutely.
And maybe part of that equation is, hey, we can start an early learning center ourselves and use that to sort of fund some of the other things that we want to do, some of these projects in our community. Again, I know that's like a big question mark, a big if of,
Yeah.
it's easier said than done, but I
Yeah.
I love that Ministry Village has been able to use it in that way.
Yeah. There's a lot of logistics to how all of that pans out.
For you personally, what takes up the most of your time, your attention with Ministry Village?
Wow, that's a loaded question, and it's a fun question too. Obviously, the administration side of it takes up a lot, but Nate, at the same time, it's 9:30, almost 9:30 right now, and so our doors are open today. It's on a Thursday, and so we have the shower ministry going on. So we have a lot of people coming in and out right now. Um, so obviously, again, the administration side takes a lot, but just being with the people is what I really enjoy and where I want to focus more of my time.
Mhm.
Just one of the great things, we just had a lady come up to take a shower, and she was so excited. She said, "I just want to tell you, I know you're busy, but can I take just a minute of your time?" And she was telling me, this lady has been on drugs, and she has nowhere to live, and obviously she's here for, to have a meal and to take a shower. But at the same time, she is celebrating because she has a job interview. She's been sober now for just a few weeks, and that's exciting. I mean, a few weeks doesn't sound like much to us, but when you've battled addiction all of your life, and that's just a success that she wanted to share. And so those kind of things take time as well, but those are the kind of things that I enjoy. Uh, Taking that time is to be able to see and process what's going on in our world, and so that takes a portion of time too. And then just again sharing with folks in the community that what we do. Ministry Village, again, been around for 15 years, but a lot of people don't understand what Ministry Village is. Maybe they've never even heard of Ministries Village. So a lot of the time that I'm taking right now is just education, not necessarily within the whole community, but even in small groups. Like a small group class that's at Olive Baptist Church, or going and speaking at a church function over in Alabama or wherever. So those kind of things take time. But again, that's good energy and good time, and just being able to spread the word and tell people what Ministry Village does, and to show those results that we've had, 200 women go through and complete a full year. Most programs are not a year, but we have a 1 year. Phase one is 1 year long for someone to commit their life to. And just saying that, so we have graduation coming up this month as well. We're going to graduate 5 women in October, so we're excited about that.
That's awesome. Yeah, for those that go to Olive, you'll know this, but most of the ladies that are going through the Charis House program sit together, the left side of the auditorium up front. And when whether it's worship time, or like, nobody's more into the service than the ladies from the
That's
Charis
right.
House. And it's a really
Absolutely.
amazing, very humbling thing to see, I think,
Yeah.
because there's just such a freshness, an appreciation, and just a genuine love to be in a place where you're worshiping God. Um, I know you've mentioned before, like, one of the biggest challenges you have is just building that awareness in the community
Right.
of Ministry
Right.
Village and letting people know that you exist and what you do.
Mhm.
what other challenges exist as far as running Ministry Village? What are the things that you're just constantly running up against as challenges?
Well, obviously, the economy is probably that's one of the larger uh, challenge. The challenge we have right now is certainly the economy. The price of food is going up so much, and we do food drives and things of that nature. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, we have a limited supply, and as gracious as some people are, and some businesses and entities, we're still running out of food. And so Kathleen Schuster is over our Tender Hearts Caring Hands program. She's having to go, at least once a week to one of the big box stores and buy, fill her van full of food. So that the economy has certainly played a role in that, even to the point of where when we're helping with assistance with rent, mortgage, utilities, water bill, light bill, those kind of things. We're having to cut back a little bit, and that's unfortunate. But that's certainly a challenge because how can you say, "I'm sorry, I can't help you today"? That's not only discouraging, but that's a challenge as well, and it weighs on everyone's heart that volunteers and that works for Ministry Village. Is they take that home with them, and so the economy is a challenge. The other challenge that we have is just the culture and society that we're in, where we're seeing the increase in overdoses. Escambia County leading the state in overdoses right now. Number, tied with some other county in South Florida for human trafficking. So just the daily things that have changed in society and our culture, that's a challenge every single day. Is just the increase in people who are addicted and trying to find recovery. For the people who are hungry, for the people who are trying to that have a house to be able to stay in that house. And then one of the greatest challenges that not only Ministry Village is facing, but across this region right now is there is no housing. So I had a family come down. The lady was, trying to get out of a domestic violence issue in another state, comes to Florida with her 3 daughters. And as a job interview, she's going to get this job, and she did. She came back and told me the other day that she's received this job, but been down here for a month now, living out of her car, cannot find anywhere to live. There's nowhere to stay. So housing is an issue as well. We don't have a shelter or housing, and so that's a challenge. Just being able to try to help those people find that. That's not available. There's no housing in Pensacola, so it's tough. That's a huge challenge.
I think for a lot of churches, and I appreciate you laying out some of those challenges because they're very real, and they're for a lot of them it's constant. It's just a constant need for resources, for food, for money to help people. There's a constant need within the community. You can help 100 people, help 200 people. And there's always going to be more people that need help. And as our society has, facing overdoses and human trafficking, like just the problems are increasing.
Absolutely.
Let's think about the flip side of that, the blessings of ministry, because obviously there's plenty of challenges and there's days that can be very discouraging. But since you've been in this, how long have you been director of Ministry Village? It's been
December. Okay, so not quite a year yet.
You've been in this type of work for a long time. I know you're relatively new in Ministry Village role, but you've done very similar things in the past. What are the blessings? Paint us the picture of, yes, there are challenges, but what's the blessing side of it?
Well, just going back to the lady that I'm living out of my car and I have 3 daughters. That sounds like, oh, that's tragic, and it is. But Nate, for her to come back and specifically come back and say, "Hey, listen, here's the deal. You were able to feed me and pray for me and my daughters, and I don't have a place to live yet, but I have a job now." And to see that, that is just that's amazing. And just to see people's lives changed. Unfortunately, everyone that we see they're in need for something. There's something going on. So someone the other day said, "How's everything at Ministry Village?" And I said, "It's busy." And they say, well, that's good. And I'm like, no, that's not good. You know, what we want to work to achieve is putting ourselves out of business, right? We want to do away. We want to make sure that people are not in need any longer. People are not hungry. So busy for us is not a good thing. But like you said, the needs are growing. So the blessings are every single day, just to be able to see that we're providing something. We're trying to help someone. You know, for people to come in and just to be able to pray over them and speak truth to them, to see them leave with you know, they come in hungry in many ways. They come in hungry and thirsty, and then they always leave with fresh water and fresh food. And as we see in the scripture, you know, the bread of life, they're leaving with not only a loaf of bread, but they're leaving with understanding who Jesus Christ is. So those are the rewards. Just be able to mentor, to pour into people, to see lives changed, to see when someone comes into Care's house, how they're broken and know that they have an addiction problem. And then you fast forward and some of these ladies are going back and they have master's degrees. They're going into the workforce. They're going back to their kids, into their families. And that is a huge celebration. That is a great time. And that's a lot of fun just to see people change. That's great.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
To really on a day-to-day basis, kind of be the hands and feet of Jesus.
Absolutely.
See lives being
Absolutely.
changed. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think
It's fun. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, right. I'm sure there are. You got the rainbow behind you. I'm sure there's those rainy days, but then every now and then you get that glimpse of an amazing rainbow, and it's like, this is why we do it. This is what makes it worth it. I think for a lot of churches, part of their maybe hesitation or their concern going into something like this, to do what you do through Tender Hearts, Caring Hands, to provide food, to provide paying a utility bill, to provide a shower, like part of the concern or the hesitation I think sometimes churches have, they're like, I don't know how to vet this properly. I'm going to have people come to me in different situations and I don't know, is somebody telling the truth? Are they just looking for a handout, not a hand up? Or am I enabling people? Like, how do you approach that? How do you try to vet people? Like, what does that look like from Ministry Village's perspective?
Well, that goes back to one of those challenges. There are people that we see on a routine basis. The way our food distribution works, we have some people that obviously they're abusing the system. That's going to happen with anything. It doesn't matter what it is. But the other side of that, Nate, is that we're not supposed to be the judge to that. We're supposed to just do what Jesus said for us to do. And that's to, Matthew, in the book of Matthew, Jesus speaks about, when I was thirsty, you gave me. When I was in prison, you came to visit me. When I was naked, you clothed me. We're not to, we have to be Holy Spirit led. And we do vet people. We have a process and we have things in place to where it reduces the fraudulent side of it. But fortunately, that's not that big of an issue. The people that we see, they really are in need. Most of the time when someone comes to us, it's a last resort. It's not something that someone's proud of. A lot of times they're embarrassed to even say, I've never done this before. So we do vet everyone that comes, even if they're coming just to take a shower, we keep a record of that. If they're coming for food, we keep records of that. And Escambia County is getting, Northwest Florida, South Alabama even, is starting a network to where it's really going to benefit everyone, because then you're able to see, where's Joe been in the last month or whatever? Where has he stayed? What has he received? And so those things are starting to evolve to where across the board, everyone can see, okay, well, this guy's he's jumping from one place to the other, or maybe there's a legitimate need, and then there's places that they can go to and or can reach out to that particular person and help them out. So that is definitely a challenge, but we try to minister first. Of course, we never judge, and things happen, life happens, and some of the folks that we're seeing, it could be us on the other end, on the receiving side. So we remember that. and we praise the Lord for that as well. But so again, that is a challenge. But yes, we vet everyone that comes through. We have processes in place and guidelines and rules and regulations for everyone.
Yeah, I appreciate what you said. Yeah, you can be smart about it. Make sure you have some of those parameters in place. But ultimately, the job is we're just going to be faithful and be obedient to try to help people. And we
That's
can't
right.
always prevent somebody from maybe abusing that. I think about
Right.
how Jesus talked about, going the extra mile, carrying a burden.
Absolutely.
If the Roman soldier made you carry a burden for a mile, go the extra mile, turning the
Yes.
other cheek. Like, I think Jesus calls us
Absolutely.
to live a life in such a way to where, yeah, we are going to make ourselves vulnerable for people to take advantage of us. And
Right.
that's part of it. That's part of living with generosity. It's part of living with love that, yeah, sometimes people may take advantage of that, but that's not something that's not up to us. We can't always
That's right.
control that. And that is
Absolutely.
part of ministering to those that are in need. You're always opening yourself up to that possibility.
That is so true. It is. Absolutely.
Um, so let's say, Drayton, let's say somebody's listening to this and they're like, yeah, you know what? I really have been thinking about doing something like this. I want to be able to reach into our community in these types of ways. What's the best way to get started? You can't just overnight be like, I'm going to do all 5 of these things. What would be the
Right.
easiest way to kind of get that ball rolling?
Absolutely. Well, certainly I would start with prayer, number one. The second thing is I would get connected to folks like Ministry Village, like Waterfront Rescue, like, there's so many things in the Pensacola and South Alabama, Northwest Florida area. Uh, there's resources. Instead of reinventing the wheel, come together and just ask questions. If a church or a person, I have these conversations all the time, even a business wants to get involved, then don't necessarily start something new. Find out what's going on and get involved with that. Help boost that on. Obviously, if you can, the Lord leads you to start XYZ ministry, then certainly do that. But number one, make sure there's a need. I know of several things that have been said in the Pensacola area that we need XYZ, and after a little bit of research, we really don't, because someone's already doing that and they're doing it very well and they have capacity to do it. So that would be the number one thing: is do your research, find out what the needs are, and find out if someone else is doing it. How many people, how many entities, how many places are doing whatever it is. So certainly find that need, research it, and then a lot of times people will start nonprofits thinking that it's a really good thing, and it is. It's always a great thing. But unfortunately, they run out of money. They do not understand the cost of it. It is very ministry is expensive, and we know that. But so understanding the cost of it, the time, it's a 24/7 position. You don't shut it off at night. You don't just go home. So you have to understand there's that as well. So the resources, the time, the energy, the money, what's it going to cost? I would research all of those things before I ever started anything new. The probability is that there's something already there.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
So if
yeah.
somebody's here locally, like those that are in our church or just here in the Pensacola area, what's the best way to support and partner with Ministry Village? What can we do?
Well, we love volunteers. There's ways to volunteer. That saves a lot of money. That helps in fees. So you can always volunteer. Well, at any place you can volunteer at the Bargain Center, the Early Learning Center. You can volunteer with Most Excellent Way. You can always volunteer with Tender Hearts Caring Hands, and we even have folks come in and volunteer with the Cares House. They do extracurricular activities with the ladies or teach a class. Things like that, to just let them have a normalcy, a new normal in their life. There's tons of ways to volunteer. One thing that again we're struggling with right now is food. Now we always take donations of food, and there's some staples that we need on a regular routine basis, and that's fine to bring those in. But the other thing is we're working with a place now to where we can purchase food for 19 cents a pound. So just to kind of put that in perspective, a can of beans is $1.40, and that's 14 and a half ounces, which is not quite a pound, right? So that's $1, but we'll just say $1.50. And so you figure that out. How many cans of beans can we purchase at 19 cents a pound versus one can for $1.50?
Yeah.
So the to get involved with the food portion of it, we can always accept food of any kind, but also the financial side of it is to where we have $1 that you can buy one can, or we have $1 to where we can buy 5 cans. So obviously the monetary gifts go a lot further than what one can of bean does.
Yeah.
So that's a great way to help. Volunteer, financial, prayer for sure. That's number one. Number one is prayer. We're looking at doing some things in the future that's going to be a little bit out of the box. So just a good season of prayer for Ministry Village would be greatly appreciated. And education, if you want someone to come speak about what we do at Ministry Village, or even to partner with you, or just listen to what your ideas are, we would love to do that. And we do that often. So that would help us get the word out about what we do and how we do it. And then also, again, going back to the conversation a few moments ago, what are the needs in this area, in this region, and how can we help you? How can we partner with you to do what it is that God's called you to do?
Yeah. Let's say there's somebody who's not in the Pensacola area. They're listening to this and they're like, yeah, I want to learn from you, Drayton. I want to know kind of give me the inside scoop on what you're doing and how I can go about doing something similar. What's the best way to get in touch with you and begin that conversation?
Well, certainly you can go to our website, ministryvillage.org. That would be a great place to start and just kind of look and see what we do. All of our numbers are on there. You can always call me. My number is 850-475-1106. That's the direct line into my office. So I would love to talk with you about that. And you can always shoot me an email as well. And that's dsmith@ministryvillage.org. Would love to talk with anyone that's interested in starting a program or helping us with ours, either way. Yeah.
That's awesome. I really hope if you're listening to this, if you're local, I hope you'll consider partnering with Ministry Village, doing great work in our community. And if you're not, I hope that you'll be able to connect with Drayton and learn a little bit more. I think this is an area that a lot of our churches can do better in. And we just need to kind of know how to get that ball rolling. Sometimes there's that knowledge of, we probably should do more. I'm just not sure how that looks. And people like the folks at Ministry Village are doing that every day. And they can speak a lot of wisdom into that process. So Drayton, thanks again for joining me today. It's been awesome to talk to you. Really great to hear about the great things that God's doing through Ministry Village. And really appreciate you taking some time to join us today.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
All right. We'll see you all in the next episode.